Hello and welcome to the December edition of Coffee with the Pastors. The duos Pastor Dan are here today with their favorite beverage today, and excited to chat with you a little bit today about what's going on in Trinity's life and ministry. Good morning, Pastor Dan.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, good. To quote a
Good.
song, it's been a while.
It has been a while. It has
Uh,
been.
but
Yeah,
we're
how long
back.
has it been? A couple of months? How long has it been?
Yeah, I'm actually trying to remember.
Yeah.
I know we did one with Bishop Kevin.
Uh-huh.
And that was in August, and I'm trying to remember if we have done one in between or not.
Yeah, maybe not. It's been quite a while.
But we are back for December, and excited to share with you a little bit about what's going on here at Trinity. Lots going on in this Advent and Christmas season, so maybe we'll just jump right in this morning.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
So one question that's on a lot of people's mind is how's the call process going? It's and to quote a song again, it's been a while, and so.
Yeah. Yeah, it has been a while. I think we're coming up on almost a year from when we formed the call committee and really started with the paperwork, maybe a little bit over now. I've lost track as well, but it's been slow, right? I think it's been really slow. And I think that's been a bit of a surprise to a lot of us on the call committee, myself included, because in the past, here at Trinity, recent history, we've had pretty quick call processes in the grand scheme of things. They always tell you at the beginning, it could take up to 2 years. That has not been the case for us necessarily, but it has taken a while here. And we were really blessed for a long time there to have Pastor Dan Dahl with us as an interim position. And now with his departure a couple of months ago now, it's kind of, I think, changed the feel of that for a lot of us as we feel like, oh, now we're down a pastor from where we have been the last number of years. So it's taken a while. And I think part of that is the shortage of leaders across the ELCA. There are a lot of churches in our synod and across the ELCA and even other denominations that are looking for pastors and not able to get them because there aren't as many pastors available as there was previously. And that's a trend that's probably going to continue. In fact, pretty confidently can say that that's going to continue because the number of seminary grads versus the number of pastors retiring each year, there's about a 5 or 6 to 1 difference in the LCA there. So things are changing that way. And I think this call process for us has brought that really to the forefront, that there's a shortage. I mean, what are you hearing about that particular piece across the church with your connections?
Yeah, no, similar things. The classes aren't as big as they used to be. The baby boomer generation was just an enormous group of people that went through at a particular time. I think we're hearing, I'm hearing from a few young pastors too that some aren't staying in ministry. And so, I mean, that's contributing. I think the pandemic was part of that. And so it's not just one thing that's created this or is creating this, but some clergy burnout's been a part of that. And challenges around. So.
Yeah. And with that, of course, more openings, more opportunities for pastors to really be selective about where they go. I know that for a long time in the ELCA, there have been a number of pastors without call in large metropolitan areas because they want to live in that area and they're willing to wait for a call to open up so they can stay to live in that area. That's always, I think, impacted the rural areas of the church. My dad used to talk about that when he was doing call processes 25 years ago in our synod. But I think that's been a piece of, we've gotten one name in all of this time that we've had our paperwork in the system, so to speak, and that person wasn't necessarily the fit that we were looking for. And so we continue to wait. We continue to be open to the call, but at the same, and a call committee continues to meet monthly. They're an amazing group, by the way, the call committee. I mean, they are the kind of maturity and faithfulness and spiritual depth that they've shown in this has been a witness to me. They meet monthly and do they spend time in prayer together, everyone around the table praying for different things and having conversation about what they're seeing and sensing. and how the congregation is moving through this. It's been a remarkable group. And so we'll continue to do that. We're going to continue to be patient and trust that there might be someone out there for us that we're looking for. But at the same time, given that shortage, I think we're gonna open ourselves to other possibilities, particularly thinking long term, that if the clergy shortage continues in the trend that it is, it may be more and more difficult to have 3 pastors at Trinity, even if we want them, right? So what can we do about that? Well, we could look at a layperson in that role, a trained layperson who could come on staff and help lead some of the spiritual care ministry that pastor's role has done. We could look at partnering with another congregation who has a called pastor that maybe isn't full-time or wants to add a little bit to their call, that they could do some time with us, and we could potentially help out a church in the area who might appreciate having some of the resources of a larger congregation, a little bit of the anchor church, partnership church kind of model that we've been talking about, at least at the council level here for the last year or two. We're also blessed at Trinity with remarkable lay visitation people. We have for years, home communion visitors, God Squad, those kind of folks. We're taking a look at all of those ministries and thinking about how we can bolster those and also sort of simplify the structure of that group to really empower our people to help us care for our people. It is our greatest resource. I wrote in the newsletter a couple of months ago about the priesthood of all believers. As Lutherans, we talk about the priesthood of all believers, this idea that each of us is equipped and called to serve using our particular gifts. That's a huge idea that came out of the Reformation. And yet I think, at least in recent decades in the church, I don't know if we've always fully explored that, of how we are really equipping each other to do ministry, because we have had all of these pastors and professional people that we pay to help lead us in ministry. And so I think this is an opportunity to really explore that and say, how can we really equip our people to do good spiritual care ministry, and not just visitation, but the whole gamut of spiritual care, helping each other grow and become deeper in our sense of who we are as spiritual people.
That's an exciting thing to explore, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to get bogged down in trends and to be like, oh, this is a problem we don't know how to solve. But how exciting to think about the way in which the Spirit is moving and saying, as we wait and explore this call, what new things might come from this.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I completely agree. I think it could be incredibly energizing. Obviously, our number one goal is to continue to care for each other and to care for these ministries in the ways that they have been led. But I do believe that there's more than one way to do them, and particularly more than one way to staff them. Some of our favorite stories in the last 10 years here have been particularly in care ministries or visitation ministries, people who get seen by another member and they make this connection and they have these conversations that honestly they probably wouldn't have if it was a staff person. Mm-hmm. Right? That was because sometimes we put our best front forward, right, for the staff person or for the pastor, or they just don't know us at the level that maybe somebody that we have known here in town for 30 years knows us. And so I do think there are opportunities when you have both working, both staff and people caring for each other. There's opportunities to do it even better than what you can with just staff. So it is exciting, and not to lessen at all this idea that when people get to use their gifts in significant, important ways, in this case, maybe taking communion to someone or visiting someone who's homebound, that's really powerful for our own faith and our own sense of who we are as God's children. So I think, again, huge advantages that can be done, especially if we do it right and really equip and train people to do it well.
Yeah. Do you want to maybe say a couple words on, there's a little bit of a rebranding of visitation ministry, how we're thinking about that with lay members right now, to meet some of this need. I know Becky, our parish nurse, is working on that, but do you want to say a few words about how we're training and equipping folks to continue some great ministries that have been really going on for a long time here?
Yeah, I think one of the things we want to do is kind of simplify. We've had all these different kind of categories of ways that we care for people. And so one of the things we're looking at is what's going to be the best way to equip people? Is it to segment them up into these little different particular areas, or to try to train people more broadly to do the things that they are most feel most called to do? And so we're kind of in the midst of that this month and next month, but by probably around February or so, we're going to be launching a kind of a new way of talking about our care ministries with a new title. We haven't quite come up with a title yet, but we're looking at that and trying to figure out how we can create one big team of all of these ministries kind of under one big umbrella, and then allow folks to plug into that in ways that that are comfortable and fitting for them, but to really equip them to do the full gamut of what we're doing now in all these different areas. So that's probably a little bit hard to kind of explain at this point, but I think the key message is there's going to be a new kind of relaunching of these care ministries, these visitation ministries in the near future, and just to keep your eye out for that. And if you're one of those people that cares about other people and likes to care for other people, that's really about the only prerequisite to be a part of something like this. Beyond that, I think we can really help equip and train people to do this kind of ministry well. So if you're one of those people, be thinking about that and be looking for this in the next couple of months, because we would love to help you be able to use those gifts.
Yeah, if someone was interested in serving, who would they talk to about getting involved with that?
I think Becky Ellsburn would be probably a key person, or myself, or even just call the office and just say, hey, I'm interested in learning more about this. We'll get you connected. But Becky Ellsburn, our parish nurse, is really one of our key point people with this right now. She's actually working a little bit with Pastor Kathy Graves, who's retired from our staff, but still in the area. Kathy's kind of donating, volunteering her time here this month to help us look at where we've been and where we're going, and just kind of almost like a consultant, I would say, and then helping a little bit with some visitation stuff here as well this month. So, but Becky would be a great person for folks to reach out to.
Kind of in a similar vein, we've had a transition with our music director, and have been kind of doing a holy experiment with music here at Trinity the last couple of months. Do you want to just say a couple of things, because there's kind of been some exciting and fun things going on as we've tried to meet some of those musical needs in the interim period?
Yeah, it's been a huge shift there in terms of staffing too. We have for years and years and years had a full-time person that really led our worship and traditional music ensembles. And in the last couple of months, we've been experimenting with a new model. I mean, I think we realized that we have a whole bunch of really talented musical folks here at Trinity and in the wider community that are interested in doing a little bit of that kind of ministry. And so we have put together a team. I think we have like 6 organists that are going to be playing here from October when we started this through at least early February. There's gonna be like 6 different organists that are going to be taking part in leading worship that way. We have 5 or 6 different directors that have led the Trinity choir and the bell choir and the clapper choir. And it's been super fun to see all these different personalities and gifts kind of get involved and have a chance to play. And it's created a variety, I think, that we haven't had in styles and that kind of thing too. But I think it's gone pretty well. What have you, I mean, how have you experienced that here these last few months?
Yeah, I think it's been fun to see, well, just to get to know the diversity of people who are involved in those ministries. Some really, really awesome folks. And yeah, it's fun to see, like pastors have their own styles. It's fun to see how music leaders have their own styles and bring their own passions and their different things, and bring maybe friends or other people that they know involved. And it I think creates a little bigger experience for people to be involved in. And yeah, it's fun. Like I haven't been able, and I think this is a testament to how exceptional all the organists have been. Like I have to look to see who it is, like because everyone is so talented that it's like, this is great. Well, who's playing today? Oh, it's this person. That's great. But that's been really fun to get to know those folks and to have the different expressions of music.
I think they've all done an amazing job. Go ahead.
And I'm especially excited to see how that embodies itself at Christmas time. right? As we transition, and it's the on the day that this drops, we'll have the cantata in the evening, and so lots of great music things coming around the corner. I know we've had lots of ensembles and lots of people practicing. That's one of my favorite parts of the season is the music that's shared.
What I've noticed, the different directors have also welcomed new people to the ensembles because they have different relationships and are involved in different music groups, and they're sometimes drawing those people in, which has been fun too, to have new energy, new people joining some of those groups too. I think you're right about the variety. I mean, I think we've here at Trinity for a long time have practiced this idea that having a diversity of voices preaching or leading worship is a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
is helpful, and I agree completely that when it comes to music too, I think we all like variety, right? In that realm, right? We like having different music at different times or different styles depending on the mood we're in or whatever. And so, yeah, it has been really great, and the dedication and the willingness to kind of step up of these leaders has been really phenomenal to watch and a gift to the church. So just really grateful for that. And we're going to continue this for a while. We have no plans at this point to launch a search for a full-time person. We'll be ready to do that if we have to at some point, but right now we kind of want to just see how this goes. And in the meantime, bringing in a very part-time person onto the staff to help us coordinate this, because as you imagine, there's a lot of coordination to have that many different leaders, right, all working. And we've been doing that as pastors, but recognizing, especially with the pastor of spiritual care position open, we have to be a little bit more available for people pastorally in that way. So Allison Day is going to join our team on a very, very limited basis here, starting at the first of the year, to help coordinate all of those different pieces of the musical ministry and worship ministry here at Trinity. And Allison's been around Trinity for a while. She's a musician herself, very gifted musician, also extremely organized, a great administrator. So she's going to be, I think, just a great addition in this role to kind of help us continue to be successful in this new model.
Well, what a joy it is to see what gifts the Spirit's gathered in this place and be able to utilize those gifts. And yeah, more to come on that. It'll be exciting to see what comes around the corner.
Totally.
Well, as we transition, the calendar has flipped to December, which I confess for more than one reason has created a little shock in my own life. But Christmas is around the corner, and there are lots of opportunities to engage in worship and other faith-forming practices here at Trinity. And maybe we could just take a few moments to go over some of those things that maybe have that are coming around the corner, so that everyone is aware of the different ways that they can be engaged coming up in the weeks ahead.
Yeah, you bet. You want to talk about Christmas worship schedule here?
Yeah, that sounds great. I think you have a slide for that, right?
I do have a slide. Let's see if I can share it successfully. Let me see. There we go. Here we go. So Christmas Eve this year falls on a Sunday, which is unique to have the 24th be a Sunday. And one of the things that we've been talking about for several years, just noticing trends across the wider church and across the culture, is that more and more churches are adding morning Christmas Eve services. Maybe you're a family that wants to get out of town to go be with grandma and grandpa or extended family later in the day on Christmas Eve. Maybe you've got small children and there are plans to do things with them in your home in the evening. It makes it a little bit difficult to come to worship for whatever the reason. The more folks, it seems like, are interested in being able to do a Christmas Eve worship service in the morning on Christmas Eve. So we thought this year in particular, being down a pastor and having Christmas Eve fall on a Sunday, it might be a good time to experiment with this and to do a Christmas Eve service in the morning. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have 5 Christmas Eve services this year, the first one being at 10 a.m. In the morning. Our schedule for a number of years has been 1:34, 5:30, 10:30, but we're just going to add that 5th Christmas Eve service, and it will be a Christmas Eve service, even though it's in the morning on the 24th. The other thing we're wanting to note for people is that 3 of these 5 services are really geared to be child and family friendly. They'll have a children's message. They'll be a little bit shorter than the other ones, a little bit simpler liturgy for the sake of just making it a little bit easier for those families that want to bring their young ones to church on Christmas Eve. And you're actually helping shape those, right? So you want to talk a little bit about those services?
Yeah. Yeah. For me, what is, and I think this is true for all the Christmas experiences, but what makes Christmas Eve worship especially so special is the music, is the carols, is the hymns, and that they really guide us into the story and into the sacred mystery of the incarnation and what's going on. And so as I'm shaping those services, I'm trying to think really intentionally of how can we include those favorite Christmas carols that help us tell the story, right? Allow them to be vehicles to help us be guided through the story, and hopefully those are familiar carols, right? And so that those are for kids and for adults alike, that those are a meaningful vehicle to explore this sacred moment in God's story. But yeah, so and I think it's special to be able to tell the story in different ways, right? I think that's why I love the children's sermon on Christmas Eve. Is there's different layers to talk about this story, different age groups to explore different levels of it, and it's important to try to hit as many of those as we can. Especially for our younger folks who are coming and who are excited because it's Christmas, right?
Yeah.
It's like presents are under the tree, like maybe grandpa grandma are coming over, like whatever the things are that they do, right? Capture some of that joy, but also direct that joy into the joy that God has, given us in the gift of Christ on this day. So
there's an energy, right, to the kids on this particular. I mean, there's always a bit of an energy when they come up, but particularly on Christmas Eve, right? Like they are amped. They are amped and ready. Yeah, it's a pretty big day. I love those services. I love to see the number of kids that often come to Trinity in those services. And again, I think we're hopeful that those 3 that are starred here on this screen are going to be particularly good. The big difference, 4:00 is the one service of the 5 that we don't have Holy Communion. So that makes that one even a little bit shorter, but all the rest of them, there's communion, but those starred ones are family friendly. And then, the 1:30 service is really been for a number of years for us sort of the early full festival service where we do a little fuller liturgy for those that really appreciate that on Christmas Eve. Of course, we sing all of the familiar carols and we have a message as well as a part of that service, but it's just a little bit more of the fuller liturgy at 1:30. And then the other service is the 10:30 service. The 10:30 at Candlelight at Trinity has been a beloved service for many, many, many years. I think at one point, decades ago, it was one of the only, if not the only, evening service before there was a family service that was added in the early evening. So long tradition, we do this extended musical prelude as a part of that service. It starts at 10:00, and all kinds of different musicians from across the church share their gifts in that half an hour. And then we have candlelight lighting that takes part in that 10:30 service. So I know for some that is one of the highlights of the year in terms of worship is that evening service. But you do got to stay up late. It's a late one by the time we get out of here, but a beautiful one. And 2, because we have these 5 services and because it is a Sunday, and we know we may have people that want to maybe come in the morning and then come back in the evening or some combination of the 2, we're letting people know who's preaching. We don't typically do that at Trinity, but we are for Christmas Eve this year because we want to make sure that if people are thinking of coming to a couple services, they know whether they're going to hear the same message that they heard at an earlier service or not. And so that's why we're letting folks know the family-friendly services that you're going to be preaching, and the other 2, the 1:30 and the 10:30, I'm going to be preaching at those. So just so that folks know. And of course, the 4 and the 10:30 are the ones that are going to be live streamed and on KCMR. So all of this info here is all also on our webpage. So you can go and look this up at any time. Just click on that Christmas Eve worship tab on the webpage, and then you can get all of that info. It's also been in the bulletin. It's been pushed out in the e-news, all those kind of things. So yeah, looking forward to a great day of worship. And just a reminder, we're not doing a Saturday night service on the 23rd because of the number of services on the 24th, and we won't have a Christmas Day service, which we haven't actually for a number of years here at Trinity. It's just the 24th, just on Christmas Eve that weekend.
Now, if you're watching today, right, it's Saturday morning, and you want to do some Christmas stuff this weekend, we have the cantata this Saturday night at 5 o'clock, and then our Kids Sunday School program is this weekend too at 10:30. So if you want to prime the pump for Christmas, we're priming the pump right now to get all ready for Christmas Eve. Some great Advent worship experiences this weekend at Trinity.
Yeah, and there's some stuff going around town too. I think Tuba Christmas is today, right?
Yes.
It is. Have you been to Tuba Christmas?
I have not. I have always wanted to. My band director growing up was pretty involved with it, so I would always see pictures and hear about it. So I'll have to head over there if I can.
Yeah. It is a remarkable sound to hear, like, I don't know how many, like 80 tubas or whatever, all playing. It's pretty incredible if you like low brass, especially. So good stuff.
Well, lots to look forward to in this Advent and Christmas season as we continue to count down the days until Christmas. Maybe to wrap up our time today, we can chat a little bit about what we're excited for and what we're waiting for in this season. So as you
are you waiting for anything at all?
We are in full wait mode right now. I have to admit, Advent and Christmas is different this year. So my wife Amy is expecting on New Year's Eve. And so as we have just started to explore some of the Christmas music in worship and in Advent music, that longing, that waiting, that anticipation, that's hitting a little bit differently this year. And it brings the kind of uncertainty. I'm giving Mary a lot more credit than I ever have as I read the story, which is just my own blindness from the past. But this sense of like, as we await our child, like there's just all this unknown about the future. And as we read the Magnificat and some of those other things, the grace with which Mary responds to this calling that God has for her, and then just the deep uncertainty of what's going to happen to her and how is this all going to play out. That's hitting a little bit differently. Like we know how the Jesus story goes, right? So it's easy to skip over that part of it. But no, we are excited. We are eagerly awaiting baby Hanson to come, and maybe we're kind of hoping we can make it past Christmas Eve so that we get to celebrate that with everyone. But who knows? Maybe at 11:30 as worship wraps up, we can drive to the hospital. It'll be this nice transition into. I think the baby has its own plans, and so we'll roll with whatever those plans are. But it's been really fun to live into that anticipation and kind of parallel that story of waiting for a newborn son.
Yeah, that's awesome. It is a beautiful thing to, I don't know if it's called living the story or what, but there's definitely, it immerses you. I bet in it a lot more deeply. One of my favorite Christmas hymns, I've talked about it a lot, is "Oh, Little Town of Bethlehem." And one of the reasons it's one of my favorites is because of that line in that hymn, "The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight." And I always think that's such a beautiful description of what Christmas means for so many of us. It's a time of deep joy and nostalgia and memory, good memories. And sometimes it is a reminder, because it's such a marker in the year, each year, of what's different from what has been or what is changing, right? Whether it's expectations for exciting things in the future or whether it's losses from the last year, the hopes and fears of our lives are all met, not only in this time, but I think in a way in Jesus too, who comes into all of it and says, I'm with you in that. And I think that's the beauty. I've been thinking a lot about that. I mean, not only your guys' situation, the excitement of what's coming, the excitement of the things in the church that are changing, that are both kind of a little unnerving, but also kind of exciting, depending on, how you look at it. But even in my own life, the last Christmas before our oldest daughter goes off to college.
Mm.
That's this one. And even in my wider family, my mom has been dealing with dementia for a number of years, and we were just this week placed her in a care facility because it has changed. And so I think all of those things kind of come to a head this time of year when you think about how life is changing and how it's going forward. But taking great solace in the promise of Emmanuel, of God with us in the midst of it. That they're all met in Christ, and Christ meets us in all of those places. So thinking a lot about that, and grateful for that presence. It means everything. Right? In the midst of those changes, it means everything. So.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a nice note to end on today. As we get ready for this season, we await the coming of our Lord and Savior to meet us in these places, and to hold our fears, to hold our hopes, and to lead us into the future. So I'm excited to celebrate that with this community and with you this season, and we'll have lots of chances to do that in the weeks ahead. So
likewise. Yeah, thank you.
Well, a blessed and Advent and almost Merry Christmas. We're a little bit too ahead to maybe say that, but we will look forward to checking in with you again on the next Coffee with the Pastors. But until then, God's blessings, and we'll see you in the new year. Take care.
Take care.